start learning about bats, and then was actually mentored by Tammy Tremblay at Sagamore to do some acoustics and other work that really actually got us really excited about bats and learning bat work, and that helped us to go down the path of where we are now. So, fast forward a couple of years, we started working on bats, started looking at bats in the community here of Shawanaga, doing some tracking, really local stuff. But we want to know, okay, bats can fly. They're not constrained to a reserve parcel. They're going to fly wherever they want to fly. And so we want to look more on the landscape level. Where are these bats going? Are they using the beautiful islands of Georgian Bay? Are they traveling across the landscape? Are they going to other communities? Where are these bats going? So Derek and myself sat down and were like, let's come up with an even bigger project for sort of the next stage. We thought, okay, why don't we look at bats on all of Georgian Bay? This is a very important place to Shawanaga, Mnidoo. Why don't we look at bats on Georgian Bay as a whole? And so how are we going to do that? Why not work with all the communities around Georgian Bay? So we started reaching out. We had some good relationships with a whole bunch of First Nations along the corridor here, the Eastern Georgian Bay corridor, but we need to make relationships with other communities as well. We started reaching out, emailing, calling, meeting with those communities, talking about bat work and this idea to work on bat conservation together, and whether communities would be interested in that. And it turns out most of them were. Everyone that we talked to was interested in bats and trying to help bats. So fast forward 3 years, we now have over 10 communities involved in this project, all working on bats together around Georgian Bay. Here are those 10 amazing communities there. And so the objectives of the project were first public outreach, education. We wanted to be able to talk about those bats, dispel any myths about them, and to do that, we wanted to have public bat nights to be able to see those bats up close. We wanted to increase capacity within communities through training, through providing data to lands departments, as well as knowledge collection. So that could be data through acoustics, netting, tracking, as well as TK or different stories about bats as well. We'll be able to try to collect some of those and then share them back with the communities around the bay. And then the goals was really to identify critical habitat for those species, investigate diversity, movement, abundance, as well as if there was specific community questions that the community wanted answered, try to tackle those specifically for that community. So we started each year, this was the end of year 3 of the project, but we started each year with scouting, going out on the land with a knowledge holder or a lands department staff, seeing where they thought bats might be, where might be a good spot to net for those bats, and then arrange to come back later in the summer to do some netting. For the netting, we had a lot of communities in a very short window of the summer, so we had to pick a time or amount of time that to try to be even amongst the communities. So we do about 3 to 5 nights of netting, depending on weather in each community, and then track for about 2 weeks. So this gives us 2.5 weeks that we're in communities. It's a very short time to go into a community, try to work with a community. But we're trying to do our best because we're trying to get to everyone within a short amount of time. So tracking both handheld and through Modus. We'll go to the next slide as well. But we see we have all these communities that we went to. It's not all equal. Each community we went to was based off their own capacity. So some of these communities we only got to go to one time, and that was potentially because in the first year they were really interested, but they just didn't have the time or maybe the staff. But they stayed interested for those 3 years, and then we were able to go back in the last year of the project and actually spend time in that community and do that work with them. But then there's other communities that were able to be involved for all 3 years. A couple communities we did some netting, but maybe weren't able to do a public night, so we wanted to make sure that they got that experience, and so we go back in a future year. So the public nights were really important to us as well. Having an opportunity for the community to be able to come out, ask questions about the bats, learn about the bats, see them up close, and also share any personal stories or any traditional stories that they might have. And just, we all know here, seeing a bat up close, what that does, how that changes your perspective versus seeing it fly around at nighttime. So we're missing one slide, but it's talking about roosts. So while we're tracking in the communities, we're finding these roosts of the bats that we're catching. We're tracking or netting in a whole bunch of different habitats, trying to get a variety of species. Sometimes for a public night, we might target a known little brown roost so that we know we can catch some bats, see them up close. Or we're getting a variety of different roosts, tree species that we're tracking them back to. One of the notable ones that we had was actually a hoary bat with 2 pups. We're able to describe the tree that she was using, where she was in that tree for a couple weeks, as well as be able to see where she's breeding based off some different Motus Tower data. But then we're also, as we start to summarize the data and look at the data across all the communities in the whole area, we start to see different trends in the data. We had 15 tracked silver-haired bats. It's not a huge number, but still when you start to add it up, I don't know, I'm still really happy to have 15 silver-haired bats. When we look at the roosts that we use, it's actually primarily poplar. So we can start to see these things, even from around Georgian Bay, they're using similar habitats and primarily one species. It's really interesting. For smallfoots, we had some great tracking data. We were able to track them in 4 different communities from all around Georgian Bay. We have different rock types. So we have primarily granite over here on eastern Georgian Bay. We have limestone on the Bruce, Manitoulin. Up in Whitefish, there's actually both where the granite and the limestone come together. And so we're able to track the smallfoots to those different types of rock crevices and see what those roosts are, how they differ, how they vary, how they're the same. As well, we want to see how the bats are moving on the landscape, how they're moving between communities, potentially where those migratory paths might be. So we use Motus for this. We were able to put up 5 permanent Motus towers during the duration of the project. Some of these in partnership with Birds Canada, as well as a couple temporary towers. Really trying to fill in the whole gap around Georgian Bay. We still have one small piece up in the north end of the bay that we need to fill, but trying to have a good array around Georgian Bay to capture those bats as they're moving. And here's some of the tracks from that. So still, while it's not a ton of bats, we are just started able to see where these bats are going. When we can report back to a community and say, oh, your silver-haired bat flew all the way from here all the way down to this state in the States, it's really exciting for them to know, okay, this is where our bats are going during the winter time, or be able to see the routes that they're taking over different times of year. As well, we try to target different swarming and hibernation sites. So at the end of each season, we would sort of pick a hibernation location because we can only track for a couple of weeks. We can only pick one location per season. So we went sort of different places around the bay to try to find new hibernation locations or confirm some ones that were thought to be a hibernation location. And we were able to do this in 3 different spots. We confirmed a whole bunch of new ones, some that were thought to be. We were able to confirm those, which was really exciting. And then based off the previous year, asked the communities, okay, where do you want to go next year for this swarming time? And lastly, knowledge sharing is pretty much the most important part of this. Bringing this information back to the communities, being able to give them that data back. This is just a graph, but there's so much more to this project than just the numbers. We can say, okay, we caught 1,200 bats over the 3 years. That could be a lot of bats, but that could not matter to the community. It could be the species that they found, it could be the trees that they found. It might be, okay, yes, it's really important that we caught all 8 species all around Georgian Bay. But the really important part, I think, is the impact that we had in those communities. So we had 3 years of funding. That funding ended. We thought maybe we'd have another year, but we don't. But the project won't stop just because the funding stopped. Those communities are still talking about the bat work. They want that bat work to continue. Some of the communities here want to continue that bat work, and we're going to try to find a way to do that. We even have Sagamok took a couple of years off from bats, is back in bats, and has been talking about trying to create an offshoot of this project to do a Bats of the North Channel. So, like, to us, that's super important that they want to create, like, do their own big bat projects and work in big communities with that. So I think that's a really good take-home message for this. With that, yeah, I'd say Chimigwech, and then if our tech all works out, we have a video for you to play.
I don't have that video.
What video?
It might be on that computer.
Is it on that one? Oh, it's all different.
Here.
Okay, is that whistling a
I
train
know.
or is it
I'm
this?
trying to figure it
It's not a
out.
train anymore. Oh, it's a band.
Oh, fuck. I was like playing around with like high frequency, low frequency. I'm like, I can't get rid of